Welcome back to Champion News Talk Radio, brought to you by championnews.net. This is Carol Parisi. Today, our founder, Jack Roser, and myself have Congressman Randy Hultgren. And Congressman Hultgren, before we went to the break, I asked you a specific question about what's working in Texas, and how do we take some of those things and ideas for the national level for the benefit of healthcare?
Yeah, I think we can learn from a lot of different places, but Texas has absolutely done some very wise moves that have drawn some of the best doctors there. They've got great medical care at a good price. One of the things they've done is really taking, when someone is injured in a hospital or by a doctor, taking it out of just the general courtroom situation and making it more where you have a panel of experts who are able to determine what really did happen, what is the injury, what are the costs, making sure that the person is really cared for. But what it does is it takes away a lot of the abuse that's going on. And what we see with this abuse is when you get jurors who think that they would like to maybe get injured by a doctor because it's like winning the lottery for somebody, and I'm going to give this somebody their big benefit, and then you have all these settlements that come out of that. We all pay a huge, huge price for that. We talked about already the high cost of defensive medicine. So Texas and some of the steps that they're doing here of having these type of tribunals, medical tribunals that can hear these cases, still again, if someone gets injured, they're cared for, they're compensated for that injury, but you don't get the abuse that we're seeing in Illinois especially, but other places as well. So many other things that we can do.
Is that what we call tort reform? Is there?
Well, yeah, it's one step. They've done some real
tort
reform. Absolutely. You know, not everybody understands, but it's a kind of lawsuit. A tort is the kind of lawsuit that someone files if they're injured by a doctor. What we're saying is it's really the abuse of the legal system that we're seeing that's driving up costs.
I got Peter Roscom to give the last final vote that passed tort reform here in Illinois, but the Democrat-controlled Supreme Court have found some strange technical reason to throw it all out. So Illinois has not gotten tort reform, nor has national.
No, we're worse.
You're speaking very clearly to this thing, and I'm glad you are. This is one of the big solutions to knock a third of the cost out of medical care and restore it more to what the doctor and the patient want in their agreement with each other. We have to restore that. The buying decision should be made by the patient.
Yeah, and that's being taken away, and even more so in this health care bill that the president pushed, that Nancy Pelosi, Harry Reid supported a couple of years ago. It's taking that ability of patients to be able to make those decisions with their doctors. We're also seeing seniors being hurt directly by this health care bill. $500 billion being pulled out of Medicare through the health care bill that was passed. We see over and over again cost of family care, families' insurance policies going through the roof since this bill has passed. It hasn't lowered cost. It's driven up cost. And we hear over and over again of small businesses saying, I'm going to drop my plan. It's a system that's set up really to drive people to a single payer system, as you were talking about earlier, Jack. That really is the intention here, where many employers want to be able to give care to their employees. They just want it to be affordable. What we're seeing right now is it isn't affordable, and many employers who, those few that are in the position where they could start to grow again and start to hire, aren't hiring full-time workers. They're hiring temporary workers because of the uncertainty of the cost of health care, uncertainty over taxation, uncertainty over regulation.
One of the good things about it would be if they got it away from having employers having that deductible, but nobody else having it.
Right.
There should be a uniformity in buying health insurance so that everybody is on the same level, whatever it is.
I agree, and I think even opening up, it doesn't make sense to me, again, where we can buy car insurance or property insurance anywhere in the nation.
Yeah.
Our carrier can be anywhere, but health care, they've got to be in Illinois. So it basically keeps it as a monopoly, and you can't have competition, which we've seen over and over, that competition brings better quality and better cost. That is what the free market is all about, and they're driving away from free market decisions towards bureaucratic decisions.
Government is the antithesis of competition.
That's exactly right.
It's
we make our own decisions on where we live and what we eat and what we drive. Why should the government be taking more of those decisions away from us?
I agree, and one of the things that frustrates me is that healthcare, I think, unlike anything else, we've become poor consumers in healthcare, where we put in more research into the TV that we're going to buy than into the surgery that we're going to get. Something's got to change there. We've got to recognize again that the decisions I make today impact really the quality of life that I'm going to enjoy to a large part, not exclusively. I mean, there's diseases that come up, but we have to take some responsibility for our own
Personal
care.
responsibility.
That's right.
You know, Bob Mackey from Whole Foods has implemented a health care plan for his employees.
Yes.
That is very good. And actually, he gave that plan when they were creating this health care, and they didn't even give it the time of day.
Yeah.
Another thing in Texas...
Obama's done us a favor on health care.
Absolutely.
He's shown us how lousy it can really get.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
So
the
we
thing. Now,
gotta
the
reform
message
it.
is now, and a lot of people I know were frustrated with the Supreme Court's decision. I was hoping it would be different. But what I think it did point out is that the Supreme Court isn't there to protect us from our politicians making bad decisions.
That we elected.
Yeah, that we elected.
Absolutely.
We are responsible. The right decisions need to be made in Congress, in the House, in the Senate, and by the President. Supreme Court there is to determine constitutionality. I still feel like this was an unconstitutional law. But I do agree with Justice Roberts, Chief Justice Roberts, that, you know what, they're not there to protect us from our politicians. I don't like the decision. I wish it would have been different. But now it's time for us to do the right thing. Let's repeal this, and let's put in common sense reform like we're talking about, like Texas has done, like other places have done, opening up the market, letting people make the decisions that they want to make, and we'll see quality increase and cost decrease.
Well, clearly this election cycle says more about who we are as a people, and our ideology is where we're going, because Justice Roberts said this is up to the people, and that's what a representative republic is.
Right.
And this election cycle is extremely important, and it will have a lot of consequences as to what America is going to look like. Michael.
Well, what was interesting with the ruling is the response by the public. Barack Obama saw no bounce in the polls at all.
No.
And what Romney pulled in $4 million in the first 2 days. I mean, if you want to energize the conservatives, this was the perfect way to go about it.
I think it even goes beyond conservative politics, Michael. This is just Americanism and constitutionalism.
Yeah, that's true.
Folks are disgusted. I do talk to a lot of people just on the street. I mean, I go ahead and, when I'm in the grocery store, make comments of how expensive things have gotten, and just to create dialogue with people that are bringing my groceries up. Mm-hmm. Americans are tired. Americans know that there's something very wrong, and they want better. This is a wonderful opportunity for America to do the right thing.
That's a good theme. Actually, a lot of Americans think if we don't cure that this year, we're going to go over the brink, and we're going to lose this thing. When you look at what they've done to us with regulations, they've tied down Gulliver with strings. He's caught on the beach in the sand with those thousands of little threads holding him down. Yeah. That's what's happened to America. I'm a businessman. I've started successfully 4 independent businesses, and I know what I'm talking about when it gets to regulations. And it's just gotten worse and worse. If you really look at it, we're already socialized. We have been forced into a socialistic form of government just from the regulations. Everywhere you turn, there's unauthorized people at the local level that are hammering us with these crazy things. It isn't only at the national level, it is at the village level. That's right. It's at the county, it's at the state. There are more damn regulations than anybody ever thought possible that remove the decision from us, the voter.
That's right.
In fact, there was some group in Washington that actually compiled how much it costs businesses across America to stay in compliance with all those regulations every year. It's a hidden tax.
Terrible.
And the amount was $1.7 trillion. That's $1.7 trillion coming out of the private sector just to fulfill mandates and regulations.
Yeah, and what it also does, too, I've traveled all over my district talking with business owners, passionate about business, the free market, really am passionate about small business. That's my background. I grew up in a funeral home. My family still owns the funeral home. We grew up upstairs from the funeral home. Saw a lot of the sacrifices my mom and dad made for us to have that small business. I just wonder if we would be able to purchase that small business now 30 years, we've had it for 35 years now, and with all the new regulation, with all the new costs, with all the lack of ability to get financing because of Dodd-Frank and bad laws that impact the freedom to be able to have access to capital, it really is so frustrating. And the other thing I hear from business owners as I travel around is that it's this adversarial relationship with their government and with regulators, where regulators come in with a gotcha mentality, where they pretty much say, we're here, nobody move, we're from the government, we're here to help. The most dangerous words Ronald Reagan said could ever be uttered. And a lot of times what they'll say is, you know what, we're not leaving until we find something.
Authority. It's too much. It's too much centralized power and
We should
authority.
take up in the next section, we ought to take up the death tax.
Yes.
And what that does to
Absolutely.
how that kills small business.
And farmers too, absolutely.
Well, you know what, I
Farmers,
want to hear.
terrible.
I want to hear more about jobs and solutions for
Good,
jobs,
let's do it.
because that small business is the backbone. When we come back after the break with Congressman Hultgren, stay with us.